There's nothing like cracking that cellophane and pulling that record out. It just smells great.
Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Non-stop hardcore energy.
I love the show, guys. You're awesome.
Unlike any other.
With your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bodfather.
Man, this stuff rocks.
The views and opinions of the guests do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of BODS Mayhem Hour, its staff, affiliates, or sponsors. Parental discretion is advised. Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour.
This is Courtney Gains, and you're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Hey everybody, welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour, and happy Halloween to all you ghouls and goblins that are out there. And of course, I'm John the Bod, aka the Bodfather. And as always, I'm bringing you guys and gals awesome interviews. And today, it has finally happened. After so many years, I have horror icon and musician Courtney Gains, and he has released his new 6-track EP entitled Safe Haven via Fake Fang Records. Also check out Courtney's previous releases, Journeyman and Acoustic Gains Volume 1. And Courtney has been in films such as Children of the Corn, The Mighty Children of the Corn, Back to the Future from 1985, Can't Buy Me Love from 1987, Colors from 1988, The Burbs, which is freaking hilarious. It's a great movie from 1989. And Memphis Belle. So, good sir, welcome to the podcast, and I'm glad to have you on here finally.
Thank you very much. So you were saying you've been trying to make this happen for 14 years, eh?
14 slowly death years, my friend. So,
who knew I was so coveted out there? Who knew? Thank you, man. Well, I'm glad to be here. Hopefully we make your day with this one.
I'm a horror fan, man. Once you're a horror fan and you dive into that, you want these people on here to talk to them about their roles and these iconic roles that still make an impact today in 2023, man. I mean, that movie came out in 1984.
Yep. Next year's the 40th anniversary. How crazy is that?
And I'm 45. Oh my God. Way to go, Courtney. Way to make me feel old, man.
Yeah. Well, you feel old. How old do you think I feel then?
Oh, that's true. That's true. So how you doing, man?
I'm good. Just been promoting the hell out of this record, man. I'm real happy with the way it came out. It's getting some really good reviews, which really honestly surprised me because, I didn't know how people are going to react. An actor who tries to do music, I thought people might be, I was prepared for the worst, but I've got some wonderful reviews. And so I'm good.
So we're going to dive back in here into the vault of Courtney's music here for just a little bit for all of you guys and gals that didn't know this. But in 1999, he put out a solo record entitled Journeyman, featuring the song Journeyman. And that song was produced by Guns N' Roses drummer Matt Sorum with Slash on lead guitar. How was working with them, man? It had to be huge.
Well, that was a complete crazy story. I tell this story. I do gigs now, and I tell the story before we do Journeyman. So the story is that Matt Sorum, the drummer from Guns' girlfriend, and my girlfriend were best friends. As a matter of fact, they were roommates. And they didn't live far from him up in the Hollywood Hills. And we went up there to meet him one time, and my girl's like, "Play something for her." I'm like, "Ah, man." He's like, "No." She's like, "Go ahead." So I played Journeyman for him, and he liked it. And he's like, "I like your voice. You want to do something?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." Right? Master wants to produce a song. Are you kidding? So I put a band together. We recorded the song. It came out really good. But what it needed was a nice blues rock lead guitar over the top of it. And I told him that, and he agreed. And then next thing you know, I get a call, and he's like, "Hey, man, Slash has got to come up here to record something." I asked him if he'd do lead for your song, and he said yes. I'm like, "You got to be freaking kidding me, right?" He's like, "No." I'm like, "Oh, my God." So I always heard he keeps a bottle of Jack with him when he records. So it's like it's a little shot he plays. So I bought the biggest bottle of Jack I could find, and I was like, "Thanks for being here, man." And it was just a surreal experience to watch him because, when you're so good at something, it doesn't look like you're trying hard. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't look like anything's happening, but the guitar is just screaming, right? And also was very fortunate to be working with a very good engineer who had just come off a Stones record. And those two together, worked really well. And I think that helped a lot because this guy had great ears. He'd be like, "Oh, I think that note's a little sharp. Oh, I think it's a little flat." And Slash be like, "Okay, what did I do?" And then they do these punch-ins. Now, if you blow a punch-in, though, you mess the next part up, right? You can't go back. And they did this for like 2 hours and just clean this lead up. And it was, it was just watching real pros, real masters at work. And it was quite an education. But yeah, I'll always be forever grateful to both Slash and Matt for taking a chance on me and doing a song.
Yeah, and you said the key thing right there, it's effortless. When you watch these musicians who's been doing this for 25, 30 plus years, I mean, it's effortless. And like Slash and Zach Wild and all these guys, I'm sitting there going, I could probably play that. And you pick up a guitar and try it, and you're like, I can't do this shit.
And Matt's such a great drummer. He didn't drum on the record, but he really worked with the drummer to make it sound good. What I really learned from that was less is more. The drummer was a little busy. He kept saying, less, man, less, clean it up. And the more he did that, the more you could hear the rest of the song. That was also a really valuable lesson. But I mean, God, Matt Sorum is a fantastic drummer. I'd love to play with that guy someday. That would be great.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Him coming into Guns N' Roses and taking over for Steven Adler.
Yeah.
I still like Steven Adler. No disrespect towards Steven Adler whatsoever, but man, Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 was just like, bam, when Sorum came in, it's just like knockout.
What's really remarkable about Guns is when you really think about it, it's like they didn't put out that many records, but no. It's not a day that goes by in a rock station that they're not playing one of their songs. It's like they came in and they just had this huge impact, huge.
Well, they had that mysterious about them, man, that nobody really knew about. It's like, do I didn't want to go hang out with these guys? Because you didn't know what the hell you was going to get. You didn't know if he was going to get, something toned down or if you're going to get some just craziness off the wall.
I kind of felt they went back to a less 80s sound and a more 70s hard rock sound, and Slash playing a Les Paul instead of a Strat and not trying to sound like Eddie Van Halen like everybody else. I think really separated them,
Oh, yeah, that's for sure. So I'm just going to tell you this right now. My favorite songs off this EP are Lookout. Dude, when I listen to that song, that made me want to jump up. It's like, man, it's got some fire under it.
Oh, thank you.
The Healer was good. Big Brother, and I like Bills in Space. I like it for the millionaires in space, having those lunches on the moon and the champagne. And all that shit. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a real storytelling record, right? Like we went back to like Acoustic Gains, for example. That's a much more personal record. Acoustic, more a lot about some of my stuff in my life or whatever. But this song is definitely a storytelling record and things that I just kind of want to point out and call BS on. And like Bills in Space, it's about the billionaire space race, which I say, and I've said it a lot, I'll say it again, I think it's the biggest ego trip on the planet today. Yep. And I always say, and I don't know if this will ever get back to them, but I'm gonna keep saying it. I like those three great minds and wealthy men to get together and solve homelessness and world hunger instead. How about that? Solve problems on the planet that people need. And I keep saying they probably won't because they can't monetize it. So there's my sarcasm right there.
Yeah. I want them to go to just go. See if you come back, guys. Go ahead.
I mean, it's an amazing achievement. Don't get me wrong. But think if they took those same resources, what they could do to actually help people on the planet. That's all I have to say.
Oh, sure. And I know I'm going to get flack for this, but stop sending our shit overseas.
I hear you. I know. I agree with that. I agree with that wholeheartedly. I mean, it's just so ridiculous how we can give all the resources to somebody for war that they want, but we can't manage to build a new highway or a new bridge or a fast speed train in this country when this is the wealthiest country in the world. I mean, they say things like, oh, it's federal government versus state government versus city. I don't want to hear all that. Just fix the stuff. All right. You have the resources. Just do it. That's the kind of stuff that, as I get older, it just pisses me off,
Oh, sure. I'm right there with you, man. Is it a breath of fresh air to create and release your own music and just step away from being known as Courtney Gaines, who played Malachai and Children of the Corn? I mean, is this a breath of fresh air for you?
It is, but what's been really cool about this with this particular record is I've gotten a little bit of support, right? Like Fake Fang Records picked up the record. That's a big deal to have somebody else out there pushing it for me. And I always say this because there's no other way to get this. You got to go to fakefangs.com to listen to this record. You can listen to it 3 times for free. If you like it, you can pay for digi download, or if you like it, you can get a limited run CDs we got going, and you'll get the digi download with it. But I love the idea they can just go there and listen to it for free, a few times if they want to. All I really want people to do is just check it out, And if they like it enough, they want to buy it, cool. But it's nice to get that support. I've had a lot of support in my acting career, but I haven't had that kind of support musically. So getting the support, and also I've got a really good band I've put together recently, and I live in Savannah now, and that's a tourist town, so they love music here, and there's a lot of venues to play where they'll pay you to play. So I'm doing like 3 sets a night. 3 45-minute sets a night. Been doing that for about a year now, really getting my chops together. Playing this band, I switched to playing bass and sing so that we can get ready to go out and promote this record. And now we've got a booking agent. So like all these things have lined up. And the smartest move I think I did this time was I hired this company, Hammer PR, to help promote it. And they're mainly a metal-based PR company. But I thought to myself, where's my fan base? That's my fan base, right? And I also understand that just because somebody listens to metal doesn't mean they won't listen to something else. I think that that's like a cliche. Just like, people only listen to rap, they don't listen to something else. That's not true. People listen to a lot of stuff. People are more open-minded than people want to give them credit for. And I thought that fan base will be like, wait, he plays music? I'll give it a listen. And that's all I'm asking, right? Give it a listen. I figure the benchmark for an actor isn't that high. So hopefully can exceed it, and somebody will find something they like. And it's really been going good this time. It's probably the best, success I've had getting a record out. So I'm excited about that.
Man, I did exactly what you said. I went to Bandcamp. I listened to it several times. Third listen, I bought it. $7, I bought it.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it. Yeah, a cup of coffee from Starbucks, you can have a record.
I mean, you're buying an album, $1 a piece, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, $1 for tax. I mean, shit, come on, folks. It's just $7 or $6. I bought it. I don't care. I love it.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I really do. I really like it. And it's good to see you stepping out of your comfort zone to do this. But did that make you a little nervous, though, to do this, Courtney, to say, I want to try and be as a musician? I want to try this.
No, because I've been doing this a long time. It's just not that many people know about it. And what really happened is, like everyone else during the pandemic, we all had time on our hands, and you start reflecting, and you start going like, woo, life is short, and who knows what's going to go down with this. What is it that matters to you right now? What is it that you haven't done you want to do? And, it was very clear it was the music. And then as that came up, because I had a lot of music, I've been writing since I was 13 years old. I had a lot of music I'd been sitting on. And I was just like, what's the reason you don't record more? And the conversation was the price of recording studios, because how are you going to recoup your money if you're not signed to a label? So I started doing research, and the technology's come so far that you can buy a little home studio now, just like people can do podcasts now, right? Instead of having to go into a studio. And so I was able to put a little home studio together relatively cheap and just start tracking and just start learning. And it was much less pressure than being in the studio too, where by the hour you're hemorrhaging money. It's not a very creative feeling. So I could do my vocal tracks as many times as I want, over as many days as I want. So I started with that Acoustic Gains record, kicked that out. I had a previous band I'd been with for years, Ripple Street. We kicked out 4 singles because, again, we could do that. They would just send me tracks. I do vocals, send them back, that kind of thing. And then I started tracking this thing in November last year. So it's been a year process to get to here where we are now. So no, I've had bands since like the late 80s. And where I hang my hat is I'm not the greatest musician. I know I'm not the greatest vocalist, but where I hang my hat is I believe I can write a pretty good song. And I've been doing that a lot, and I've been playing long enough to know, like, I've been playing good times since like the 80s in an acoustic band, and people would get up and dance. So I knew that song's gonna do good. Matter of fact, there's a PR release tomorrow. We just played a gig up in North Carolina at the Haunted Pyramids, so we can play some pretty good heavy stuff. And we played Good Times as our closer. It's 5 o'clock today. I'm not sure when this airs, but 5 o'clock today, it's going to jump on YouTube, and then there's going to be a PR blast about it. So, if people want to see if I can play and see if I can jam it all, I recommend checking it out. That'll answer your questions.
Yeah, I recommend everybody to buy Safe Haven. And you know what, man? you got off your ass and you did it, Courtney. That's the big thing. And everybody talks. They're like, John, we love what you do. We would love to do this. Just do it.
That's exactly what I say to people all the time. People say, I want to be an actor. I'm saying, well, nothing's stopping you. Learn a monologue, go on the corner and act. Like, you mean you want to be famous? Okay, that's another conversation. But it's always about the doing. It's always, and that's what people don't understand. It's like, because the only way you learn, at least the only way I learn anything, is by doing it. You can only theorize about stuff long enough. You got to actually take. So just take the actions, and I try to keep the faith in that regard. That if I put this thing out there, if it even just affects one person likes it, that's a success. Do the footwork, put it out there. I believe, and the universe gives back if you take the steps, right? God does those for themselves, as they say, right? So I definitely stand by that kind of principle.
Look, I know you've been doing music for a while now, but this album is acoustic. A lot of your stuff is acoustic. Is this where your forte is going to be, your niche? Is this where this is going to be, or do you want to eventually do something heavy?
I would say this was a pretty good rock album. And if you listen to some of the Ripple Street stuff, one of my friends who's a musician calls it cruise grunge, and I think that's because I've heard it more than once. People like, I like to put this song in my car with the top down, driving down the coast. As though cruise grunge has been born. So no, I do some rock stuff, but I'm not really into metal. And that would, if I always said, like, if I wanted to like try to monetize this, I would call the band Malachai and play some metal, right? But that's just not my heart, so I'm not doing it, I sort of approach it like as an actor, as I could do many different types of roles and character roles. I just write what I like, and I don't think about it. What I do now is I just try to bunch them together in these EPs, so the next couple of things I want to do are totally different than this last record. I have an instrumental rock instrumental project that I want to do next that I think will be good for film, for film sound kind of stuff. And then I have an straight acoustic record that I want to do. I have these 6 songs that I had them for years. Back in the day, back in the early 90s, now my ex-wife, we did a show where I played these 5 songs live, and she was a choreographer and there was choreography done to them, which was just a mind-blowing thing to see somebody interpret your music to movement. It was so cool, but I've yet to track them. And so that's the next project. And my logic is this: I'm not bound by any label. No one's giving me a giant advance to say, make 6 songs just like the one that hit over here, that kind of creative pressure. I can just do what I want, right? I can just put out what I want. Some people like them, some people won't. But the bottom line is I'm not getting any younger, so it's time to get all my stuff out while I can. And then, that catalog will be out there, is as it is, and you just never know who you might touch, move, or inspire. That's how I look at it.
But how cool is it to look back on how old these songs are and seeing them come to life finally?
That's very good, particularly Good Times, because it was in so 3 of the songs, The Healer, Good Times, and Big Brother, which sort of inspired the movie. There was a movie that came out that I produced and starred in 2006 called Benny Bliss and the Disciples of Greatness. And it's an anti-technology story that just me ranting about technology. And that song Big Brother, the whole chorus is, who knew Big Brother would turn out to be you, right? Because we're all filming ourselves doing everything now, right? It isn't hard for people to find out, what you're up to, the police or whoever it might be, because you're telling them where you are all the time. It's crazy, right? Like, who knew it was going to be us? They just give us some phones, and then we'll like record our lives all the time. Look how cool I am over here, and how cool I am over there. So that was what that song was about, and that sort of spawned this movie. We were supposed to do a soundtrack to the film, and that never happened. So that's thus why I put these 3 songs out, and then 3 of the 3 new ones: Safe Havens, Bills in Space, and Look Out. And Look Out's kind of a classic story of a boxer who's been told he's got to throw a fight by the mob, and what happens if he doesn't, right?
Oh man, well, no. That's a badass song, man. I like the groove to it. It's I'm telling you, dude, I was sitting here going over these the last couple of days, and I was like, man, alive, Look Out just stands out on this EP. It's like,
catchy. It's catchy, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. Did this EP turn out exactly the way you wanted it to, or was there something else that you wanted to put in that just didn't make it?
No, these were the only tracks I intended to put out. These were all the tracks that are like, these are all story oriented. These are what I want to do. The process was crazy. So I tracked all the vocals and the bass and the electric guitars all by myself, and they weren't all the endings and this and that weren't all fully thought out and things. And so then when we got with the guy who played a lot of guitar on keyboards and also helped me mix it, Guy Wallace, who was in my band for about 8 months. Now he's out. We had to do a lot of splicing and dicing, but I was comfortable with that because I've produced movies, and I'm like, if you can cut a movie, you can certainly cut music. It's like, it's because in a movie, you've got voices, movement, and music going all at the same time. It's even tougher. So we did a lot of splicing and dicing. Like, for example, in Look Out, the hook that you kind of probably remember, da-na-na-na, da-na-na-na, that was just one hook he did. He put a lot of stuff in there. I was like, man, this is too busy. And I was like, I like this hook, though. I said, put it here, 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 here. He's like, what are you talking about? I said, just do it. Just cut it in here, 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 here. And he's like, okay, I'll do it. And then after he heard it, he's like, oh, that kind of works. That's kind of cool, and it ends up being the hook in the song, So there was a lot of that. There was a lot of editing and splicing and dicing. So you start out with a song that you write on an acoustic guitar or on a bass. Safe Haven was written on a bass. And you just you try to expand on it. But I didn't want it to be, I didn't want this record to be too overproduced. I wanted it to be kind of stripped down and raw. There were times where I was kind of getting people trying to talk me out of that and add too many guitar tracks and things like. I was like, no. I want this thing to be a little raw. Like I was kind of getting some static about the tone of the electric guitar on Big Brother, and I was like, no. I love that. I love that tone. Do not take that out. And then now in some of the reviews, it's something that people have actually talked about more than once, that they loved the tone of Big Brother. So you got to stick to your vision. You got to stick to your guns and try to make things go the way you want without being overbearing, right? But also being open to hearing other people's suggestions, Now,
you said you've been seeing a lot of great feedback on this new EP, but man, what's the feedback that you've been seeing that's fueled your fire now to say like, oh, this is great. This is exactly what I wanted to see.
I just been shocked at just the level of people's like listening and things they've said. I mean, one guy was just one I just put out today was saying that, Big Brother reminded him of the Blues Brothers. I was like, oh, that's awesome. Like I could get that. I was like, that's incredible. Every song it tells a story. I was like, that's a great quote. I would love to put that quote down. So there's been some really, really good quotes that I'm actually a little blown away. I feel like people are really taking the time to listen to it, and they seem to be getting it. So I'm just thankful.
You wrote, recorded, and produced this EP, Courtney. Do you like to have that time to do it and just do it yourself versus having someone to come in?
I'm open to if I could get a really good producer to work with me, why wouldn't I do that, right?
Sure.
But that comes with that would have to come with most likely a record deal, because you got to pay these guys good. If you want Rick Rubin, man, that's like $250,000. But Rick Rubin's a genius. I mean, you get Rick Rubin on your side, you're gonna make something good, right? I mean, the Red Hot Chili Peppers pursued him for like ever, going, please, 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 please. And finally he's like, okay. And then he worked the hell out of them. But then one of their breakout record, because the combination, they knew if we could get hold with Rick Rubin, magic will happen, right? So, a producer could make or break a big album. I mean, the producers that helped, produce U2's Joshua Tree, that whole guitar sound was one of the producers. That whole echo sound, that was his deal, and he passed it on to them. And that took something out of that guy too, because he's like, I invented this style. He could have just been like, no, that's mine. And he's like, I think this would work with you guys. But I'm sure the guy made a lot of money, because big producers get a piece of the record. But still, there's a lot of artists who won't share like that, who won't collaborate their best ideas, and so, it can make it huge. So I'm open to it. If a great producer wants to work with me, just send them my way.
And look at Fleming Rasmussen, what he did on Ride the Lightning and Master of Puppets for Metallica. I mean, two back-to-back albums that were just fucking phenomenal. Masterpieces.
Right. So no, I mean, a producer to me is like the equivalent of a director of a film, right? So somebody writes the film. So to be like, here, I wrote these songs. And then they take them and almost, the equivalent of like the visual that a director puts to a movie is what the sound they put to the bare bones thing you bring in on a guitar or a piano or something. I've always been taught if it's not a solid enough song to sound good on a piano or guitar, then it doesn't really have the bones you need to expand from. But like I said, I've done most of my writing on acoustic guitar. But it'd be so interesting to work with somebody that has that kind of vision and knows how to really take your thing and make it go. I mean, every great actor's got a great director, right? I mean, Robert De Niro, he's got Scorsese, right? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, if I had a chance to work with someone fantastic, I'd be open. And I definitely want some help the next stuff around. I'm looking for a little bit more producer help, but I this is just what I felt I needed to do to get these done. Was to just do them independently and I've been sitting on most of these songs for so long. I had a pretty good idea what I wanted.
Have you seen more fans come over from the movie side, such as fans of Children of the Corn, the Burbs, all those, to your music now? Have you been seeing more of that?
Yeah. Oh no, it's been going pretty well. But like I said, the Clawhammer was the perfect, like the horror fan base, right? That's who's gonna go. Who? Him? Right? Okay, I'll check it out. So they were reaching people worldwide that would have not that have been posting stuff about the record release that would have never done it otherwise. And if I had hired a different PR company, would have never reached those particular. I've had, people release the PR release in Spain, in France, and in Germany, and and I've been amazed at how much it's gotten out there. But it's all because we're reaching the right fan base. And I certainly hope to do that with the touring as well, to try to reach the base that'll come check me out. Because I've had some occasions, like I said, we just played this haunted house, and they're there and they're not sure if I can play music, right? They're like, we're here. It's either going to be a train wreck and like really entertaining because it's a train wreck because it's you and that's going to be funny, ha ha ha, or maybe you're going to be good and then we'll have a good time with that. And then after a couple songs, we're like, all right, these guys are actually rocking. Let's go. So, but the curiosity factor, coming to the circus to see if I'm gonna, sink or swim is the fan base are the only ones that are gonna do that. So we're working hard to reach them. Did you add anything differently on this EP musically than what fans are accustomed to hearing from you? I don't know. I don't know. I don't think about that. I don't think. Again, I'm not trying to monetize this as the motivation, right? And I'm not answering to some record label who's saying, write me 7 hits, and that's giving you $100,000 advance or something. There's a whole different game, right? Sure, so I write from the point of view, and it's the same thing I think I do as an actor. What makes me good as an actor is the mood. I'm able to create the mood. You can call it feelings if you want, whatever, the mood. That's where I write from. I don't write from a technical place. I'm like, I'm writing this song in the key of E, with a 3/4 bossa nova groove. That's not how I write, I write from the place of my gut, and then hopefully I'm able to capture that through what I'm writing. So I don't know what I have no idea what anybody expects from musically. I don't think they expect anything at this point. So I just write I just write the way I feel. And that's what's fun for me. I love writing. That's, for me, writing music is some of the most creative experiences that I've ever had. When a song comes through you, I can't explain it. And once it's coming through, you got to get it down on paper, like right now. Like you got to record it like right now. And you can't stop until you've got it down, because if you think you can go break and eat some dinner and come back, it's gone. What I mean? It's not like that. There are times I wake up from dreams where I have songs, melodies in my head, and if I don't get up right away and try to do something with it, it's gone. So when the creativity comes, you got to just go with it. But it's an amazing feeling to have something come through you like that creatively, something coming from your subconscious, like Bills in Space. I didn't sit there and start going, I'm going to write a song about the billionaire space race. I just started finding this groove that I liked, and I'd been seeing a bunch of stuff about that, and it just started coming out. You just process it, and it comes out through your music. Was there a song on the EP that totally ended up sounding different than what it was intended to? Was there one that kept changing, or no? I think Look Out evolved the most, because that really was just on an acoustic guitar, and when I first retracted, I just recorded that acoustic guitar is still on there, but it started with just that. So that really evolved and evolved and evolved. So I'd say that one probably came the farthest from its raw roots. And I think the biggest challenge is probably the Healer, because we had keyboards and horns, and the bridge is definitely not only a key change, but a time change too. So I had to record those in 2 parts because I didn't know how else to do it. So I recorded it with one tempo, and I can't deal with a metronome. I hate them. Tick 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 tick. It just drives me crazy. I need to hear like a drum beat. I need to hear bass snare, bass snare, bass snare, so I can follow it. So yeah, I had to find different drum tracks that I recorded, basic drum tracks just to use as my tempos to get it together. Then I had to cut all that together and make it work. So that was probably the most complicated song to put together. And I'm happy with the way it came out. It's and I don't know if you know what that song's about, but I always tell people that song's told from the point of view of a egotistical plastic surgeon. Oh, wow. I would love to do that music video, playing the guy, convincing this middle-aged woman, of all the things he can do for her. We're gonna hoist up those boobs and do a tummy tuck too. It's just crazy. I think it'd be a hilarious music video.
Weird Al, watch out, son. Watch out.
Exactly. It's kind of in that ilk. Exactly. So this one's that kind of record, you know?
Look, I know these are your babies. I know you've had these for a very long time, but are there any songs standing out more to you than any right now on this EP at all, Courtney?
What's the one standing out the most? No, not really, because they're not really. Because they're all pretty different in their own right. You know, I think I'm most proud of sticking to my guns in my vision with Big Brother, because that was the one that I got the most pushback from doing the mixing, and even from the record label. They weren't as hot on the song as I was, but people have ended up liking it. I've gotten some good write-ups about it specifically, so I'm just like, yeah, it worked. I knew it worked, even though you guys were doubting me. Yeah.
Is the track listing placement important for your album or EP releases? Does it got to have a flow to it?
Oh, absolutely. Now that's what I'm talking. Like, I was actually going to start with Big Brother, but the label was, like I said, they weren't as hot on that song, and I was happy to have a label. I said, well, you guys got some outside ears. Listen to it. You tell me what you think, and they want this. So we switched and started with Safe Haven, since that was we started with Safe Haven, right? Yeah, that was the title track. So I said, okay, cool. I definitely wanted the title to be Safe Haven, because I just like the meaning of that, the sort of the double meaning of it. Of not only is it important, again, during the pandemic, you just realize, not only was I happy to have a home, but I thought about people who didn't have a home.
Yeah.
During a pandemic, how intense would that be? You're on the streets during a pandemic. So that was the first sort of gestation of the idea. But then it also started to really represent, how we all need that. Like, music for me is a safe haven. Like, we all need that. Some people watch movies. Some people watch, some people listen to music. Some people play music. Some people do podcasts, right? Like, whatever it is that your jam is so important. So it really sort of took on a double meaning. And so I really wanted that to be the title. But in hindsight, I think it was a good move to start with Safe Haven and put Big Brother third. And yeah, when I finally got the CDs and I could just listen to the record like a record, right? Not having to click each time I hear each track, and could hear it in its totality, I was really happy with that. I was really happy, because that's one of the things I admire. Like Led Zeppelin, I think is highly underrated for their ability to put a record together. It's not just good songs, it's the way the songs flow together. It's not just like some artists just make an album and try to get a couple hits off of it, and that's that. They're not wrong with that. That's what they're doing. But I really admire when a record flows from beginning to end, and that's people aren't doing that anymore. Now it's like you listen to one song on Spotify or whatever, but that's not where I came up listening to records, and so I really admire that. So to have a record that I feel actually flows well. I was pretty adamant that Good Times had to be at the end. That was one of those, like, Good Times got to be the last song. But other than that, I was pretty open to how they wanted to rearrange it. And I think it came out great.
Yeah, and me and you both are at the ages where we grew up to where we bought albums specifically on the album art. It's like we took a chance. But
yes,
I say this with everything. Buy a band's album, musician's album, just put it on and just go away. Let it take you away. Just listen to each track. Just listen to it. That's all you have to do.
Yeah. And that was I wanted the album cover, the album art to be cool in this thing, and we brainstormed and came up with some cool ideas. And I'm really happy with the way the CD looks. I think it came out pretty cool.
Look, I know you've worked with other people on this, on your EPs, all your music stuff, but is it a collaborative effort, or do you just usually take the lead for writing and everything?
In this record, I take the lead for all the writing, but I have done a lot of collaborating. My first band was an acoustic group with a female vocalist, very good vocalist. We started writing when she was like 15 years old, and writing with a woman's point of view definitely brings out a different thing. My band Ripple Street that I had for a long time, the bass player and I co-wrote. And that was a very different, like a guitar player, Dylan, we play a chord and we put 1,000 lyrics in between it. With a bass player doing a kind of a riff thing, you can't do that. So you have to like really get your concept pressed down and get to your main points. So it forced me to write in a different way. And I like that. It's just one of those things. So either you can write with somebody or you can't. I can't explain it. Either you just have that chemistry or you don't. And with Ripple Street, again, we wrote he had another partner he started writing music with that we hadn't we hadn't written anything in a while. And again, it was just there. They would send me tracks, and in 30 minutes, I'd send them back lyrics, and they're just like, "What the hell?" I'm like, "I don't know, man. I heard the song, and this is the thought that came to my head, and I don't try to overthink it. You know what I mean? Just let it flow. Don't judge your art. Just let it happen." And some good stuff came out of it. Some really good stuff came out of it. So I like co-writing. And with my new band, we just brought in a really good guitar player, and he's also very, got a master's degree in engineering and all this stuff. His name's Walpy Che, and he's bringing a whole different perspective. And he's been showing me some material, and I've been showing him some material. I think we're definitely going to do some co-writing and have him help produce, because he's really technical, but very, very good guitar player too. And I'm interested to see what's going to come out of that. I'm always open to doing that, because it just brings different things out of you than you would do all by yourself.
What's that growth musically though you've seen from yourself working on this EP that impresses you the most, if anything, man? What's gotten stronger? What's gotten better?
It's just the working in the studio. That's what it's just been, taking your song that you have in a raw form and giving it legs, giving it flesh, and filling it out and making those, and having to make those decisions, particularly because there wasn't another producer, where if I wasn't happy with something, I had to come up with a solution to make it work, or make a call like that look out, little line going, that's the line I want. It really forced me to sit in there and listen and make the decisions. And so I feel like that's where the growth has been from both the records that I put out, that I've been recording here. It's just really forced me to grow on a technical level, because I'm just not a technical guy. You know what I mean? That's not my thing. I'm always hiring other people to handle the technical components. So it's been a really good process. I mean, it's been a lot of growth. It hasn't been always fun, but to take something from soup to nuts, you got to stick in there even when it's unpleasant.
Oh yeah.
It took way longer to finish than I thought, man. It took way longer. It ended up being a much longer process, and that's something I learned too.
Being a musician at this time in today's world, what's it mean as a musician to have an EP or just a full-length album out in today's music world? Because I mean, it could be gone in a split second.
Sure. I mean, I think, that there's so much like even like content, like we're making content right now. There's just tons of content in the world today, so you can easily get lost in the noise. That was why, again, I tried to target my fan base, as it were, to try to have it stick with somebody. But the cool thing for me is we're going to go out next year and go out and play and keep promoting this thing. So that's going to be the key to keep it alive. And man, we're going to be selling, one CD at a time, like one club at a time. You know what I mean? Like I know it's just on that level, it's just a grind, right? We're not going to be like, we're not some big band on some big label that's like, out the gate sells, 500,000 copies. Like that ain't happening. We're going to try to sell 500 CDs. It's not going to be easy, actually. You know what I mean? And if that goes well enough, we'll make 500 more, or something. But I know it's going to be one fan, one club at a time. It's going to be it's going to be a very slow burn,
But what?
I'm up for that,
But you know what, man? I know you're saying club after club, but why not hit these festivals? I mean, you guys are good enough to play festivals, in my opinion.
It's definitely part of the plan. And that was this gig we just did in North Carolina, which, again, you can actually find if you go to the guy that recorded it. His name's Dale from Shelby. If you go to his page, there's all the 2-3 days of the festival. We played on day 2 and day 3. That was our first quote unquote fest, where where you're, instead of playing like we're doing now, playing a lot of covers and three 45-minute sets a night, it was like, okay, you got a 50-minute set, go. And we only did 3 originals out of the 9 songs, but it was great because it had a big PA system, it had a lighting system. We could play as loud as we wanted, like sometimes we're in these little bars or little hotel, and they're always like, hey man, can the drummer keep it down a little bit? We get that a lot, so you had to learn to not blow the room out if you want to keep getting paid, So we just got our first taste of the festival thing, and we actually really liked it. So we're definitely working on that too. You just got to go through the grind of getting people to listen to it and then saying, sure, you can play here, So it's not easy getting people to, we were talking earlier about gatekeepers. Every festival's got a gatekeeper, every bar's got a gatekeeper, every restaurant's every club's got a gatekeeper you got to get through. So you got to just keep pushing doors open and not taking no for an answer, and then showing up and doing a good job so they'll have you back.
That's exactly right. And I tell everybody that don't give up. I don't care how many denials you get. It's like how many times I've asked a girl to go out and have dinner with me. Every time there's a no, eventually there's going to be a yes in there somewhere. So
yes, that's true. It's a numbers game, right? Everything's a numbers game, right? I mean, as an actor, I tell people this all the time. So I've been able to work because I've been able to book 1 out of 10 auditions. Okay. So that means I'm batting 100%, right? If I was a baseball player, I'm batting 100. But in that world, that's really good. That's like hitting like 350 in baseball, But the point is, even then, I'm getting rejected 9 out of 10 times, right? That's like, and I'm doing well, right? So if you can't take rejection in the acting business, you're not going to be able to hack it. You know what I mean? And so having dealt with that for 40 years, I'm not too worried about it on a music level. You know what I mean? I just use it. I love being the underdog. Please think I'm going to suck. You know what I mean? Like the come in to think I'm just going to be horrible, please. Cause then, my bar is so much lower to surprise you, So, but yeah, just keep going, and it's just amazing what happens. Like we had a little gig yesterday at this place we've been trying to get in Savannah for a long time called Moon River Brewery, and I had to really sell them on drums. They don't, because they've had so many complaints there because there's condos right nearby, and I said, look, my guys are real pro. We'll do it. It'll be fine. If it's too loud, just give us the thumbs down. But the sound level was good, and then this guy came up to us. Who was like, I love that this isn't too loud. I can hear myself think. He's like, hey, I just got married. We didn't do the party yet. We'd like you guys to play for us.
Oh, wow.
So like, you know what I'm saying? Like one little gig leads to something else really cool, right? And you're like, wow, these people this is their wedding party. This is the band they want? Are you kidding me? And I do originals, but I interpret them quite a bit. Like we start with, say, Desperado, for example, but I don't do it like a ballad. I do it a little bit more up-tempo. And that was one of the things he and his wife said. They said, we really like the way you interpret songs. And to me, that's like a great compliment, because to me, that's where the artistry is. I'm not knocking guys who can play note for note and sound just like a band, or guys who do tribute bands for a living. That's your jam. There's money to be made there. You go get it. That's just not me. That's just not what gets me up in the morning. And I'm not going to do anything I don't want to do at this point. Like I'm going to do what inspires me. But it's so cool when somebody else resonates with it to the point where they're like, we'd love to have your band play for us. So you just never know each time you stick yourself out there what the next little cool thing that comes back, right? The next little cool thing that comes back. So you just got to, if you're not putting yourself out there, ain't nobody going to know.
You know what, man? I did my first podcast. I said, I don't know how this is going to go. And now look, it's 13 years later and I'm still sitting here doing it.
And it all started with one step, right? One leap of faith. One leap of faith.
Yep, getting your ass off the ground and just do it. See it.
So congratulations to you for sticking with it that long, man.
Yeah, yes, sir. And I love it. I love it. So we're going to throw Courtney Gaines and your music out the window for just a couple.
Oh, we've been like 40 minutes talking about music. Talk about whatever else you want, man.
I want to know about what you want to do possibly if you could do these next questions. But if you could write an album equivalent to your favorite band's album, which album would that be?
If I could write Dark Side of the Moon, I would say I'm a freaking genius. That's the greatest concept album ever written, right? So yeah, that would probably be it. Or like something I said, something on like Zepp 4. If I could write Zeppelin 4, I will have arrived. But I'll say this: if I could write one song as good as Aaron Neville's "Tell It Like It Is," that would, and if I could ever sound like Aaron Neville, that would do it for me too. That guy, that's one of my favorite oldies. One of my favorite songs of all time. I'll tell it like it is, 'cause I'm not your little boy. Love that, man. It kills me right in the chest. That big guy, that sweet falsetto voice comes out of. It's just unbelievable, man. It's like magic, that voice to me.
Yeah, he does that. Tell it like it is.
Yeah, exactly. He gets this like little thing in his throat. It's like, oh man, it kills me. It kills me. Yeah, that's one of my favorite. I grew up in a Chicano neighborhood in LA where oldies were the thing. So I grew up, and I think that's one of the things that helped me be a good songwriter, because I think that era, the writing is really, really good. You know, Neil Sedaka and Carol Kane. She wrote all these songs for the hits. You know, the hit makers in Chicago in the 50s. They know how to write, man. And I heard a lot of that stuff coming up as a kid, and I think it really kind of taught me, you know, verse, chorus, bridge. You know, that kind of how to structure, because I think that's where that came from. Because I think they wrote great songs back then.
If you could be a member in an iconic band, Courtney, and play one of their legendary shows, which band would be in what show?
Ooh, what band?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, yeesh. That's a tough one.
These are my $1 million questions, as I call them.
Yeah, man. I mean, Zepp comes to mind, Rush comes to mind, but like a Rush, you're like a 3-piece band. One guy, you're out. It's a big deal. It's certainly Floyd. Oh man, I don't know. That's a tough one. That's a really tough one.
All right, so we're going to skip on to Children of the Corn, since this is my kind of Halloween deal here. So we're going to talk to Courtney about Children of the Corn here for just a little bit. Got a couple of questions.
No problem, man.
What was your thoughts when you first found out about Children of the Corn and auditioning for a role in it possibly? Let's talk about that. How'd that get going?
So how that happened was that the casting director, Linda Francis, that's how it happened. She had seen me in a showcase back in the 80s when that became a thing that was popular in LA, where you'd have a showcase where you would do scenes for casting directors, agents. Now they've monetized the whole thing. But back then you would just, you know, have them come and give them some wine and cheese, you know, and you'd have your pictures out, and if they liked one, they'd take it. Well, she was one of the first people to like my work. And so she started bringing me into auditions, and I got in one movie she'd actually cast that then ended up not happening. But she was a fan at that point. So she was the one who really brought me in for that role. And she was the one who championed when it came down to like 3 guys or whatever. She kept saying like, that's my guy. This is the guy. I think this guy is, you know, going to be really good. So she changed my life. You know, she changed my life. And that's one of the advices I give to actors. I said, if you can get 3 casting directors in LA, gatekeepers again, right? Gatekeepers for sure for actors. Yep. You can get 3 of them to believe in you. You can work. You can work in LA. So that's like, I feel like that's, I say that to people because I feel like that's possibly an attainable goal, right? You're auditioning for all these different casting directors all the time, trying to get on some comedy, some sitcom, this, that, a horror movie, whatever the case might be. They're all seeing your work, and they're all drawing opinions about you. But if you can get 3 of them, they'll go like, I like that person. I want to get that person work. They're getting you in the door. And then, they're throwing your hat in the ring. And then it's your job to go in there and convince the director and the producers that you're the person, you know? So she's the one, man. She's the one who really gave me the first jump. So there's a story though, which you may have heard before, that I had a little fake, knife, when you could fake stab a little spring in my pocket. And I didn't know if I was going to use it or not, but they had a reader who turned out to be a huge casting director who never cast me in anything, probably because I pulled this knife on him. And I put it right under his throat so fast that he couldn't see whether it was real or not. And he about wet himself. And I could see in the corner of my eye the director and the producer turning and looking at each other. Because I mean, as a young man, I owned this guy at that moment. You know what I mean? As playing a tough guy, I had him. Yeah. And then I had to come back and audition with John Franklin, who had already got the job. And I just remember picking him up so hard off his lapels of his jacket that his feet were off the ground. And he always said like, "Oh, you were by far the scariest dude." It was like, he said it was down to 3 guys, and like you came in, and I was like, "Oh my God, this guy's got to be it." And I was just hungry, man. I wanted to prove that I could do it, and I wanted to prove I belonged. I wanted to prove it to myself. I'd been studying for a long time. I believed I could do it well, but you have to get the chance to prove it to yourself, and you have to get a chance to prove it to everybody else. And that was the chip I had on my shoulder going in there.
It really sickens me, and I'm a big horror guy, and I know you are too. You're a big horror fan as well, not just because you're an actor.
I like good stories. That's it. I don't care if it's horror. I don't care what genre it is. Just give me a story I can get behind.
But there's several that have became big actors who don't want to even associate that their first role was in a horror movie. And I'm like, Why not? I mean, why?
Because it's considered B movies, and now they think they're too big for that. Whatever that stuff is. It's just ego and perception and all of that.
That's true.
But I'm not saying I wouldn't have. I would have never predicted that the first film I did would be still 100 credits later, 40 years later, still the film that is the most identifiable role. I mean, who could have predicted that? So I'm not saying there weren't times in my career where like, I got to do something bigger than Children of the Corn, but it hasn't happened. But now I sit back and I'm just thankful that I've had a long career, and I'm thankful that I'm still working, and I'm thankful that I'm known for anything, and I'm thankful that, doing conventions was really good for me. This is going to be my last year next year, the 40th anniversary. I'm going to call the horror conventions done. I've been doing it a long time, but go out on top. But it's been a really good experience for me because it helped me to take myself less seriously. What I learned about people that love horror is there's a tongue-in-cheek element to that. You know what I mean? Like, it's fun for them, right? It's fun. Sometimes the movie's so bad it's good, that kind of thing. And I understand. And so it just helped me to lighten up and realize that this was obviously some people have been so affected by it, they had nightmares over the character too. I've had people come to me they're sweating and their heart's pounding because they're so terrified. I'm like, okay, we can heal this. It's a healing moment. I'm not as bad a person in real life. Let's have a hug. Let's hug it out. You'll be all right. But by and large, it's not as serious as I was taking it all. So it's been really good for me, and I've been thankful to be able to meet the fans and find out. I had no idea there were so many Burbs fans out there, for example, which is like my number 2 seller at the tables. There's some hardcore Burbs fans out there, man. Who see it every year with their friends or their family. Like, they see it with their, like, this was the movie when I was a teenager. This was the only movie I could watch with my parents that we both could enjoy, and now I'm watching it with my kids. You're just like, that's crazy. Like, right on,
But how was that chemistry with you and John Franklin? And John played Isaac, of course, in that movie. But how was the chemistry with you and him?
Oh, it was great. I mean, it was both our first film, and I had a lot of training in LA, but he had a lot of training Chicago doing theater. So he was much more, his character was, had a lot more dialogue, was much more technical, and he carried that very well. And my character was, the strong, silent, and crazy type, which works for me. Less lines, the better.
But here's something that's really crazy. With the movie being about children being killers in a small town, realistically, did you think this would go over as well as it did?
No, there's no way I could have. I mean, Stephen King was just starting to emerge, and I was just, like I said, I was just trying to prove to myself and to others that I belonged in this business, that I could do the job. There's the reaction we got, and it was, horror was such just B film at that time. Now it's so mainstream. I mean, the critics hated it, right? I mean, I remember seeing critics I'd watched, on TV as a kid just ripping me, it was my first film. But I always say, they're gone, and we're still talking about the role I did. So maybe, history bore out that maybe they weren't on the right side of history. But the reaction we got was shocking, like I would see kids would see me on the street and go running to their parents, and things like that. You're just like, whoa, So it was really, really, really overwhelming. And probably the smartest thing I did, what I learned was that the power of cinema at that point. I was like, man, cinema is really powerful. So like, choose what you're doing wisely. And the second thing I said was, this role had such an impact that I can't do it again right away.
Yeah.
So I was like, I made my goal very clear. I don't want to play the same role twice. That was my goal in the 80s run. And that ended up, I think, being a really wise decision for a young man to make, because what I had at the end of it, as I made my transition into adulthood, was a body of work. I had a successful movie in horror. I had a successful movie in a romantic comedy. I had I had like all these genres, and a tits and ass movie like Hard Bodies. Like, I had a success in every teen genre, which was I just was very fortunate that the movies went on to do well, but there was enough characters there, and there was enough range that I felt like I had established that I wasn't a one-trick pony. And I think that served me well as a character actor for the rest of my career.
Looking back on this iconic movie, did you ever think today that it would still have that same impact as it did?
There's no way, but I know now that as long as there's teenage angst and people who want to kill their parents, which like that's what teenage angst is, right? That movie, like rock and roll, every new teenage generation will discover it. Yep. You know, and that's what's been happening. It's still, you know, rents. You know, when there's hardly any CDs left, it still rents off the shelf every Halloween. You know, or now it's going to be streaming. But people every year people watch it. It's crazy.
It's a great film, man. I mean, you and John and everybody who's part of that movie. I mean, you sold it. I mean, it was sold. I mean, it's just like
there's a lot of good acting in it. I mean, look at all the people that went on to have careers, and director Fritz Kirsch. I mean, gets a lot of the credit for all the things he did to make that movie happen. But you look at all the elements, the set dressing, the music. For a low budget movie, a lot of things came together for that movie to come out well. And that's things that people underestimate. They underestimate production design, set dressing, wardrobe, all those things, you know, add up. And you don't do them, it shows. And I has a lot of good elements in it.
I didn't want to go to a small town. Hell no, at that time. I said, nope.
And I think that's the thing when I talk about a story you could believe. Theoretically, you could believe in a small enough town, it could happen, right? That's could happen. And that's where the suspension of belief happens. If it doesn't have that, you got to believe it's possible. At least I do. I got to believe it's possible, and then I'm brought into the story. And I believe that's unfortunately I believe that's possible. You know, so if you got a crazy enough guy like my character who'll go kill the sheriff, right? You guys want to go take out the sheriff? Okay, anything can happen. You know.
All right. All right, folks. Horror icon and musician Courtney Gains has released his new 6-track EP entitled Safe Haven via Fake Fang Records. You definitely want to go out and pick this album up and give him a fair shot. So, Courtney, my friend, how can folks stay in touch with you, buy this new EP, everything that you got coming up? How can you do that, sir?
Yeah, so right. If you want to hear the record or go get it, you got to go to fakefangs.com. fakefangs.com. As far as me, my socials, I have, if you want to find out where the band's going to be playing in the next year, you got to go to our Facebook page, Courtney Gains Group. And you'll know it's me. It's all the posts we're doing. It couldn't be anybody else. And then I have a Facebook, Courtney Gains as well. Again, I don't have like an official anything. I also have an Instagram, but I'm not official anything. But I would say, you'll know it's me because who else could be posting the things I'm posting, right? They're not all just, you know, there's some stuff that there's just no way anybody else could do it. So Instagram, Courtney Gains, Facebook, Courtney Gains, Courtney Gains Group, fakefangs.com for the record. And that's all I got. That's way more social work than I want to be doing, to be honest.
And I'm going to have all of these links in this podcast when it comes out. So that way nobody can say, I don't know where to go get it. You just click on show more. It's there, the world of the interwebs, folks.
No excuses.
Right. Everybody stick around. We got some great stuff coming up, and you only hear these interviews right here on BODS Mayhem Hour. Please get out and check out our Facebook page as our podcast link and our YouTube link that you definitely want to go subscribe to if you like what I'm doing. And please go out and check out Courtney Gaines' new 6-track EP entitled Safe Haven via Fake Fang Records. Do it, pick it up. It's a great album, great EP, I should say. And Courtney, man, thank you so much for doing this interview with me finally after 13 years of trying to get you on here. Thank you so much.
Great to meet you, man.
You're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.